Well, hello. Welcome back to Car Theory. This is Red Sheik. I'm joined by that Shuby, and this is a series that we just started last week where we are going to be discussing hot topics in the car community. And we're going to revel in all of the different opinions and the science, as much of this as we can.
Yep. And this time we're going to be talking about whether or not the Mark IV Supra is overrated.
I think that it most definitely is.
And I'd have to say it's not.
See, the thing is I think the fanboy is strong with this one. I just think that you have a lot of people who watched Fast and Furious and other movies that showed the Supra as this amazing car, and that in reality the car didn't make that much power. It was very heavy, and just especially for the price point, was not a very good performing car in general. It got beat out by cars that were much cheaper, much lighter, and produced much more power.
As correct as you are on that, I would have to still disagree. Because in modern day, they've developed so much fanboys.
Nostalgia?
Yeah. Over the years that there's been so much research put into it, and now it's common to see them well over 1,000 horsepower, 2,000 horsepower.
Okay, so before we get... Go ahead.
They're just very, very... they have a lot of potential.
Okay, so we're arguing potential versus actual original product.
Okay.
Alright, so let's take a quick look at some of the history of what we call in the United States the Mark IV Supra, even though Toyota never actually called them that. We call them that. It was actually called the Supra A80. That is A as in alphabet with an 80. Now, that was produced between the years of 1992 and 2002, which is pretty good run for a car. I mean, a decade is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is.
It was available with, for those of you who don't know, even though I'm sure most people out there do, it was available with two different engine options. A 2JZ that was an inline 6. It was specifically the 2JZ GE inline 6 produced by Toyota. And then a Toyota 2JZ GTE, which is the same motor with two turbochargers strapped to it, making significantly more power.
Now, what's the differences between those?
I believe it's the let me read right here. Okay, so the 2JZ GE, that's the non-turbo 2JZ, made 220 horsepower at 5,800 RPM, whereas the turbo variant made 276 horsepower.
Now, keep in mind, Japan did limit the maximum horsepower to, I believe it was 276. And that's very common with a lot of the Japanese cars.
Okay, it also says here that Toyota upgraded the Supra's turbo engine to increase the power to 320 horsepower later on down the road.
Now, was this
326 for Europe because they have different horsepower than we do because they're weird like that.
That's weird. Anyway.
American horsepower is what's best.
Absolutely. I'll agree with that. Japan, if I'm not mistaken, limited all of their cars' horsepower. Same with the R32. The Nissan R32 was designed to be around 500 horsepower, but it was very limited. But Nissan secretly built easy modifications or modifiable parts to their engine to make it easily accessed by the public.
You mean
to 500 horsepower?
You mean Toyota?
No, Nissan.
Nissan.
Now, I don't know about Toyota, but I'm saying, like, Toyota probably did something like that. Because, I mean, they have so much potential nowadays.
So you're arguing it's like the new BMWs, where the country in which the car is manufactured requires the car to be restricted, where all your new BMWs have a quote-unquote top speed of 155 miles an hour, because that's what they're restricted at. You can remove the restrictor and obviously go a whole lot faster than that.
Right.
But that's what they reach off the bat. So you're saying it's something similar where they're restricting the power.
I would have to say something like that because I mean they obviously have a lot of potential when you're seeing common 1,000 horsepower Supras.
Now keep in mind though that these 1,000 horsepower Supras that you're seeing are not cars that go out and are driven just every day, and
no, absolutely not.
and they're not cars that would really be any fun at all to drive on the street unless you had plenty of room.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you would very quickly become acquainted with the person in front of you's rear seat. But and also understand that these cars are not necessarily the most reliable things ever made.
No, they have a lot of heating problems.
Generally, these very, very powerful cars, and whether it's American or Japanese or German or whatever it is, when you start pushing ludicrous power numbers, your reliability goes out the window. You're going to break parts, and when you break a part on an 800 horsepower motor, it's going to tear a bunch of other crap up too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, understand that those aren't necessarily cars. It's not like you can just buy any Toyota Supra that came straight from Toyota, strap a boost controller on it, jack the boost up, push 1,000 horsepower, and you're going to do that for 4 years, no problems.
Absolutely not. That's not going to happen with pretty much any engine. But with any modified engine, it goes as far as the builder's knowledge, and his capabilities of what, like how fine can he tune that car.
So you're saying it's a good platform?
It is a great platform. Even though it has the cooling or heating problems, whichever way you want to look at it, they tend to overheat because that's just a design flaw that they had.
Now, I'm curious as to why, because I don't think there's really any denying what a skilled engineer or mechanic would be capable of doing with a Supra. I mean, we've all seen videos of crazy horsepower Supras tearing up drag strips and demolishing supercars and all this stuff. But, what I would ask is, other cars are capable of doing that too.
Yeah, but it is
particularly
a lot
the car that comes to mind would be, something like a Corvette or a Camaro, something pushing an LS motor. And granted, those have a lot of hype behind them. They have a huge fanboy base.
Yeah.
But it just seems like the Supra is getting put up on this pedestal that other cars can reach, but somehow the Supra is the one that everybody likes. And I really think it's because it was put in a movie driven by a popular actor, and it's a movie that eventually became to define large parts of the car community. And whether or not you like the Fast and Furious movies, you can't really deny its impact on the car community in general. And I would say that part of that impact is raising the Supra to prominence. I don't really know where else to go with that. I would argue that that's why it's put on that pedestal, and that ultimately it is overrated.
The go-to engines plural, are usually going to be the 2JZ and the LS platform in any motorsport situation. I believe the 2JZ is heavier.
So the loser here is Ford.
Absolutely. All the time. Ford sucks. But I mean, depending on what kind of motorsport you're going to be doing, and it doesn't even have to be motorsport, it could just be daily driving. If it was daily driving, I would prefer to have an LS engine. Because they're reliably built, good on power, pretty good on gas depending on what it's in.
Yeah, a little known fact, your Corvettes, if driven properly, and by properly I mean not the way that car guys drive them, but the way that like a sensible human being drives them, because I think we can all agree that we're just a slight bit crazy.
Yeah.
They actually get upwards of 30 miles per gallon, especially on your M6 cars. I'm not familiar with the specs on the C7 as far as gas mileage goes, but I imagine that with the ability to turn off 4 cylinders, they probably
get pretty high gas mileage,
which is, in my opinion, just a system waiting to break. And then now you've got a 4-cylinder Corvette, and you're the beating boy for every V6 Mustang out there. But
no, but I mean, and going back to the go-to motors, LS and 2Js are usually your go-to, depending on what motorsport you're doing. If I was going to be doing an endurance race, I would still rather have the LS because, like I said earlier, the 2J just has a cooling problem, and if something were to break, like a coolant hose or something, you'd be done in that race. Now, if you were able to trash your car like in drifting, and just beat on your engine all day long and still have parts available back up the pit, I would prefer a 2J. To me, they are very, very, very good sounding engines over the LS. A lot of guys like the deep rumble, but I like it sounds more precise over an LS.
see, and for me, that's an interesting topic you brought up. I don't want to see something. I don't consider a car that makes 1,000 horsepower for 40 minutes a feat of engineering. I would say that a true feat of engineering is reliably making high power figures. And going back to what you just said, the LS particularly is a reliably built motor. And anytime you turbocharge anything, no matter how well it is designed, you're doing a process that is very, very hard on a motor. And a lot of people have done it, and a lot of people have made relatively reliable turbo cars.
Supra would be a great example of that.
But anytime you produce a car with, it goes back to what I was saying with the Corvette and the ability to turn off 4 cylinders being just something else to break. When you put a turbocharger, particularly 2 turbochargers, on a car, it's something else to break. And when they break bad.
Well, these were iron blocks. 2Js were iron blocks, which, same with the LT1s that were in the older Corvette, the C4 Corvettes. I don't know what else they were in.
I think I know Chevy put them in the Camaros. GM also built the Firebirds, the Firebird Transams, and the Formula Firebirds also had LT1s. And then I believe there was a Malibu or something else. It was more of a sedan that was available in an LT1 as well. And I understand what you're saying with the iron blocks, that it makes it a lot more reliable.
Yeah, I mean, you're able to turn the boost up a little. I mean, not excessive, obviously. It won't be reliable. But it still has the capability of reaching higher horsepower without really doing too many modifications.
But would you agree that there's this idea out there among the car community, and not among everybody, but that there is this idea that the Toyota Supra is somehow this god of a car that can make 1,000 horsepower and can be driven every day and is just this.
I would say a lot of the fanboys, like the younger 13-year-old guys who are just now kind of getting into the car scene, I would say that that's what they would believe. I'm going to be honest, I used to be that kid. I love Supras, I love 2JZs because of all the rumors I heard about them.
Well, and also, let me point out that me saying all this, I love a Supra.
Yeah.
And I love Japanese cars. I love seeing different feats of engineering and ultimately different approaches to the same thing. We all want to go fast and we all want to look good doing it.
Right.
And different manufacturers go different ways of doing that. But you would agree that at least among a large portion of the car community, Supras are held as this.
They're put up on a pedestal.
They're put up on a pedestal.
Yeah. I mean, I'd have to agree with you, but I mean, let's go back to.
But you think it's a pedestal that is deserved?
If you are a tuner, I would say it's deserved.
Okay.
If you're looking at it from a stock perspective, no, absolutely not, because it is a heavy car with too little horsepower.
The point that we got to here is that you don't necessarily, what you love and what you want to drive doesn't always have to be the fastest car on the road.
Exactly.
It doesn't have to be faster than what was its competition. Unless you're driving it because it has the stereotype of being the fastest car on the road.
Right.
And it's faster than everybody out there.
Which is not.
And if it's just not really that, understand that. When you go to get a Supra, if you like it because you like the Supra, that's great. But just understand what you're buying.
Yeah.
Don't buy it and think that as soon as you leave the parking lot in a stock Supra, you're going to go outrun a C7 Corvette, because you're not.
Nope, not
C7
at all.
is going to spank you.
It is.
And you're going to feel really bad about yourself, and then you're going to want to push more power, and then you're going to break your car.
You're going to want to go get a Mustang, and then you're going to wreck it.
So, just understand what you're getting, guys, and you guys can discuss more in the comments over whether or not you think we're wrong or right. With that, we will see you guys next time on Car Theory.
Bye. Bye, guys.